Shalom Mishpacha, and welcome to another episode of Get Organized God's Way. I am just so grateful and so blessed that you are joining me today because this is going to be a very, very special episode. Can't wait to dive into it and tell you all about it in a few minutes. But I wanted to just, if you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Eileen Koff, and I am the author of Get Organized God's Way. I'm a certified professional organizer, and my ministry is to help to bring God's order and God's shalom into every aspect of your life, not just the drawers that held the socks, okay? But it's like when there is peace and there is shalom in your home, there is His presence. And in His presence, where His peace is, your ability to hear Him is exponentially greater than when there's clutter and disorganization all around you. Let me give you a little example of what's happened in the past few weeks with me. It's a story that's just too incredible not to tell you. I was coming home, flying home from visiting some friends in Chicago. If you hear my dog in the background, I'm sorry. There's probably a bunch of people outside who want to mess with him. So I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it. But anyway, all right. So I was on the airplane. I was coming back, visiting some friends. And usually I pray, obviously, beforehand when I get on the plane going, Lord, sit me next to someone that I can share, anything with, just kind of like what I want to do. And so on the way to visit my friends, I did sit next to a woman who was actually going to Japan. She was doing missions work. So that was amazing. And so on the way home, I sat next to two millennials who had their headphones on, and there was just no way I was going to be able to, talk to these people. So I just, did my own thing, and it was only like an hour and a half ride. But it on the way, as we were taking off, the pilot said that there could be some turbulence and stuff because it was one of those, it's going to start raining or whatever. But long story short, the flight was just perfect. Hardly any turbulence, hardly any problems. So we start to land, and as we're taxiing into the gate, a woman stands up. Just like, you're not supposed to get up out of your chair, but she stood up, and she just said, she says, to tell everyone how very thankful that I am that we did not have to experience the turbulence, because I get very anxious when there's all the rocking in the plane. She goes, and I just want to just praise God and thank Him for, that we were here safely, and just give Him all the glory. All right. So now I'm sitting in the middle seat, and she's actually, it's a 6 row, 3 on each side of the aisle. She's actually on my row on the opposite side by the window. Okay. She could have been anywhere, but she was right there. So I reached into my bag and I pulled out my card, because that's what I do when things like this happen. So I pulled out my card, and I had everybody pass it to her. And so she looks at the card, and she pulls her head around to the side. She goes, "We need to talk." Okay, we need to talk. And I went, oh my gosh. So anyway, my husband was sitting way at the back of the airplane. And we were sitting kind of far up. So I had a chance to talk to her one-on-one as people were leaving the aisle. I made sure that I was, right next to her as we were walking out. And, she just said, Eileen, she goes, you have no idea. And I says, you're right, I don't, but he does. And she goes, can I connect with you when I get home? And I said, sure. Now, you have to understand, this is RDU. This is the Raleigh-Durham, international airport. And people can be from all over, to travel, to come to the airport. I mean, so anyway, so we get home and she calls me and she goes, Eileen, I am in need of what you do. She says, my dad, who's no longer with us, he died a short time ago. My mom's living with us now. And he was a pastor of a church. My mom does a lot of ministry stuff. And my house is in great disorder. Can you help me? I said, yeah, I do this virtually. Where do you live? Probably somewhere, in the vicinity of 100 miles or so. So I do this virtually. And so, she said, she gave me her address and I plugged it in to the instruction, how you get to places. So my brain's not working. And so I found out that this woman is literally 14 minutes from my home. Literally. She's literally 5 miles. Now, that in and of itself, I mean, for her, okay. So the bottom line, the reason that I'm stating all of this stuff is because she was bold enough to get up out of her seat and share what God had put on her heart. Had she not done that, I would never have passed her my card. Had I never passed her my card, I would not have connected with her. And to say that we have been in a very, friendship. I've gone over to her place several times and helped her out. And it's just been one of those, it totally is a God thing. When he connects his body when you have no idea what he's doing, he does, obviously. And I just keep telling her, I said, if you hadn't been bold to stand up and share Jesus with this group, with the people on the plane, we would never have met. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, now is the time to be bold, because God has a purpose for each and every one of our lives. And I wanted to share this because it's one of those crazy, amazing stories that shows who is in control. And when we begin to let go of the things that have entrapped us in our lives, the material goods, the seeking of the professional, accolades, whatever it is, when we begin to let go of stuff, emotional stuff, physical stuff, spiritual stuff, then God begins to move in our lives. And when we can be bold enough to share our struggles with each other, then we are here to help each other. Because as I say to all of my clients, I'm very selfish. When you are hurting and when you are in need of hearing God, we are all suffering because we are one body. We are all connected. And so when you're better, I'm better. When you're suffering, I'm suffering. And so being part of this Messianic Lamb Network is such a privilege and a glory to God to be able to share his insights through biblical scripture, what living an orderly life does for not only our surroundings and our relationships, but our ability to hear him so clearly, like she heard him to say, stand up and share. And when we can hear him, our whole lives change in an instant, and we do not even understand why. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. So I just also wanted you to know that if you're joining me today, again, I say this every time, there's no judgment here. Clutter and disorganization is unique for each individual. And generation by generation by generation, that the world and the enemy of this world has passed down to us what success and happiness is supposed to look like. And in scripture, God says just the opposite. So it is my mission and my ministry to point out those things so that when you begin to look at your environment and your relationships, that you begin to see things as God sees them, not as what you have been taught by the world. And again, no judgment, because these are things that have been passed down. We don't know any other way until someone comes up with a stop sign and says stop, and take a look and see exactly what scripture says. Now, how can we change according to what God says? So before we get started with today's episode, let's begin in prayer. Father, I am just so blessed and so filled with the glory that you bring to me when I come before your kingdom. I know that the struggles and the disorganization, it's affecting them in so many ways that they don't even realize. But Father, I want you to speak through me so that they can hear you in a new way. They can begin to see things in their struggles in a new way and learn to bring in shalom and peace into every aspect of their life. I ask you, Holy Spirit, to fill my words as we are on today, and that your glory, more than anything else, will be shown brightly in this world. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen. All right, so today, you're in for a really special treat. All right. I am so excited. I wish I had words, but I get so excited when I bring on a guest onto this show, because I don't have nearly any of these answers that everyone else seems to have. So I like to hear it from other professional organizers, their perspective as to, how they got started, what their life's been like, how they've been able to transform other people's lives, because we each come at our businesses in a different way, even though we know that at the center, God is there. So I want to introduce to you Lisa Dodson. Her business name is New Seasons Organizing. Now, isn't that like the best name, New Seasons? I'm going to have her explain how she got there. So Lisa is a member of Faithful Organizers, and that's how we met. I was the devotion director for many, many years, and Lisa came on and we developed a relationship because we were in the same group. Now, Faithful Organizers is a group of Christian professional organizers all throughout the United States, in most states. And if you want to bring in an organizer that brings God into the center of the sessions, then you want to go to faithfulorganizers.com and learn more about them. But that's how Lisa and I met. And I just have been so amazed at her business and what she's done that I wanted to bring her on and share her story with you. So because she has a unique approach, Lisa's methods are both time-tested and deeply insightful. and her system helps clients experience God's shalom, God's peace in their homes and their spaces. So I am so excited to bring Lisa Dodson on today. And hello, Lisa. I'm going to bring you on now.
Hi, Eileen. Thanks for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Oh, again, it is my joy to have you here. So, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I actually have already started my day off with a client. Since
Wow.
I do work virtually as well as in person, most of what I share about today will be my time where I've been in person with people. But like you mentioned, working virtually with people can be also very beneficial, especially if they're looking more for coaching and guidance on how to do it rather than have that hands-on help. So my day's been full and I've walked the dogs around the block already. So I'm ready to go. And I'm on the West Coast. So it's it's pretty early still, but it's been a full
Okay.
day already.
Well,
So I'm
good
glad to be
morning
here.
then. Yeah, it's in the afternoon here in North Carolina on the East Coast. So yeah,
Thank you.
it's great. You can get out there. Probably the weather is not near as hot as it is here, and enjoy walking your dogs, which is at 9 o'clock when I do that with my dog Javi. It's a challenge. It gets really hot really fast. So,
Yes.
so anyway, so I was mentioning your name, New Seasons Organizing, and I just think that that's an amazing name for your business. So how did that happen, and how did you get involved with Faithful Organizers? And I guess the general thing is like, why are you here? Like how is it
Right.
that this became a passion of yours to become a professional organizer?
Okay. Well, it goes back like 13 years ago. And I was a stay-home mom at that time. And I was looking for just a job that I could do and still be home and be involved with some of the kids' things. So I
Mm-hmm.
was looking for something that would incorporate my skills and my interests. And I feel the Lord just led me to find a group of professional organizers. At that time, I honestly had never heard the term professional organizer, didn't know it existed.
About what year was that? Do you
That
remember?
was that was in 2012.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, you were in business then. I know that they were around, but it just
Yeah.
had never crossed my plate. And maybe that's because I wasn't necessarily in need of an organizer.
No.
And the profession was still relatively small. And even today, I find people who've never even heard of a professional organizer. So I'm
True.
glad you're here spreading the word that we do exist. But, but I did meet a lady who had already started her business. She hadn't been in business very long either. And she was just looking to hire people. So I hired and worked under her. And what was interesting about her as my boss or even my mentor was that she was a licensed social worker. So
Okay.
she dealt with people that were in extreme conditions. There was hoarding issues,
Wow.
there was mental issues, there was a lot of things that were really more on a little bit more serious, I would say. We even had a time where a man took out a gun and the cops had to be called.
Oh my.
I was terrified, of course, because I hadn't been in that situation. She, having that experience working with people with mental illness, was a bit calmer, or a lot calmer actually than I was.
Mm.
But when you talk about needing prayer, that was a time that I needed prayer. I was, it was very scary, and but God protected all of us, and we were fine. And the police came out and took care of it. But I share that because this was like I had never even worked on my own, and this was like some extreme situations
My
that I
goodness.
was put in from the beginning.
And I'm
Um,
amazed that after that you said, "Yeah, I'm going to still do this." This must have been a passion of yours to, put that aside and still say, "Yes, this is my purpose. God has given to me to continue." Because
you know,
I don't know if many people would have continued to do that. I mean, so I'm so proud of you.
Well, I agree. It definitely was a God thing because, like I said, I'd never even heard of this profession. I would never have put myself in those kind of scary situations
Oh,
just on my own. And that was just one of many of them with her. And fortunately, she was there to kind of help guide and direct me.
okay.
But that's one thing, God will put us in situations to kind of test us and to show us things that we wouldn't do on our own, where you have to step out and be brave. Even the person that needed help was being brave on
Yes.
calling us out there to help. But once he got a little riled up by the idea of going through the process of keeping or letting go, it just stirred up some emotion that he couldn't handle. And we'll talk about that a bit
Yeah.
more as we talk about how people can be on edge from just looking through and decluttering and organizing their home. So
That's a really, yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is key. That is one of the most powerful components of why things are the way they are in people's homes, is because of the emotional ties. So yeah,
right.
let's get, really, dive deep into that one in a little bit.
And we will. And so when I first started my business, because I guess from where I was, I couldn't even think of a business name. So I just went by my name, Lisa Dodson, professional organizer. That's what I told everybody. I'm Lisa Dodson, professional organizer. And then I came to a time where I was starting to understand what I was doing more in my business. It became a little more personal, more than just a business. And that's kind of where I believe the ministry part came in. And I thought, I want to add a little something more. My name is important. I wanted people to remember my name, obviously, but I felt like I was at a point that I had more clarity and more creativity, even. And that's where the new season came in, because it really, the truth of it is the majority of the clients that I was helping were entering some type of a new season. They could, in most cases, they were moving, but they were moving because of a certain reason. Maybe they're moving because they'd outgrown their home. They were moving because they were an empty nest. They were moving because it was time to go to assisted living or some other type of independent living. There
Interesting.
was a divorce. There's just, when we think of our lives, there's so many new seasons we enter. And it just seemed like the right choice for the name, because that's really what I was doing, was helping people as they transitioned into their new season.
Yeah, and that is really key for so many of my clients as well. I just had a client, we finished our sessions, and because she's moving actually next week, and we started about a month ago, and most of the things were her children's photos and all the things that she had not given to her children, that she did not want to bring with her. She was just going to pack the car and that was it. She wasn't moving any furniture or doing any of that. And so the concept of going through all of those things, and being able to, hand off those pictures and things to her children, was very emotional, and
Oh,
how do you do
definitely.
this, and how do so a move can really, really bring up so many different, parts of our lives that, as we are transitioning from one life to another life, we don't even realize all these emotional issues that do arise. And that's what makes what we do so powerful in helping people stay focused. Excuse me.
That's true. And Ecclesiastes 3:1, it reminds me of, there is a time for everything, a time for every season. And if you continue to read through
Yeah.
that chapter, it says there's a time to save and a time to let go.
Oh,
And
that's beautiful.
and that always just kind of touched me, because I really never thought in the Bible it would say there is a time to save, to keep, and a time to let go. And that's what we're doing with this process of organizing, is helping people to know what they should keep or what they should let go of. And so even in that verse, it helped me with my business name, because it referred to that
Yes.
season of life. And that was just another confirmation from God that, I'm here to help people in whatever season they're in. And it's so different. I've had clients as young as 9. I've had them up to 90.
Wow.
And all of those are very different seasons of life that people are in, and they have different needs, and they have different levels of possessions or clutter or whatever, different organizing challenges as they go through life. A 9-year-old doesn't necessarily even know what that means, but his mother did know that he was already showing some signs of needing some organizational assistance. And I thought that was it was a challenge, but it wasn't. It was a challenge in my own mind, thinking, how on earth could I help a 9-year-old? But I had already raised my own children by then, and he just needed to know how to sort things and to label
That's
things,
that's
and
wonderful.
to realize that we can't keep everything, because we'll have new things come in, and the old one in, one out rule, or we're going to bring in a new toy or a new collection or a new piece to build something, and we'll let something go. And again, it was that biblical,
Time to keep.
time to keep and time to let go. And so that was a good thing, just to help him get into his young mind and keep with him as he got older.
Yeah, so when I'm with a client from now on, I'm going to have them read that. I'm going to have them open Ecclesiastes, and I'm going to have them read that. And I says,
Yeah,
do you see what God says? So it should
right.
make a difference, right? I love that. That's fabulous. I wanted to share that, the woman that I was talking about, that I've been going over to her home. She
Mm-hmm.
lives with, her mother, her husband, and then she has her children, and she has 2 girls and a boy. So I told her a similar kind of a story, but a little different, in that you're doing, first we were just doing her space, her office space. I says, and don't say a word, to what it is that you're doing, what we're doing. Just say hi, goodbye. I'm busy for an hour and I'll talk to you later. So when we were finished, her kids would come in and see the transformation in the room. And yesterday, when I was speaking to this woman, she said, Eileen, my daughter for the first time said, can Eileen come and help me in my room?
Oh,
Okay.
that's wonderful.
She didn't say a word, but it's similar in the it's and I've always said that it's not what we say, as parents or as Christians or whatever. It's how we live our lives that
Yes.
make our authenticity, and when people can see the difference of the peace that's within an environment, they want it. They don't know how to do it, but they want it. And
Right.
so when she was telling me that yesterday, similar story, I just cracked up and I said, see, that's why I said, don't say a word, just see what they say, see what they notice. And
And isn't it interesting how many people want their children who are adults to see that difference, even without actually saying it? Like, it's really important to them. And I often use that as a motivating factor when I'm helping people, is that this is going to be an encouragement for your children when they
yes,
see what you've done, whether it's for them to come over and visit, or if it's for later days of having less to go through and sort through when they're gone. Like, it's an
mhm,
encouragement for the client to know that their children will be blessed by this experience that they're doing, and it gives them encouragement to keep on, because
that's wonderful.
they want their kids to be proud of them. And it is hard, and they, in most cases, these kids have never seen these environments organized, sorted,
No, and
clear. Mhm.
schools do not teach this. Okay, they just
No, they
no, they
don't.
don't. They need to, but they
You're
don't.
right.
They don't teach, the basics of, when you're doing your homework, the best way to about, because everybody's different, obviously, and the people learn differently. but there's not the structure that is generalized in the school systems. And go girl. See, when
Right. Well,
we can
and
when we influence, a 9-year-old like that, and he's going to influence his friends. It's the ripple effect.
yes. Well, and what's interesting about this 9-year-old is that I just recently helped him again, and he is going to be turning 15, and so it had been a while since I had gone out to help him, and he knew I was coming, and he remembered me from before, and we were actually working on the same area, and you could see that he understood a lot of the basic skills of how to do it. Like, I could bring something out, he could look through it, he could make decisions. But what I didn't know this until I heard from his mom, what the problem that would cause him to not want to do it is both he and his mom struggle with maintenance. I never thought about that. And that kind of shows how people process things differently.
Yes.
Like, that was an important thing from several years before, is that we were working, and maybe I didn't even stress the fact that you need to maintain this. That means it's an ongoing process.
Yes.
And the mother said that even when I was helping her son, she found it a little bit cringy because she does not like that process of maintaining. She knows all the tricks on how to organize. Walking into her home, it looked fine. I wouldn't have thought it otherwise, but it was the maintenance of when things get piled up. Like, he had a pile of different things that he was using to create and build and so forth, parts and screws, nuts, just a variety of things that the average person might consider trash. These were his treasures. But the thought of going through and sorting them and making decisions on which piece of cardboard to keep or which nut or bolt or any of those things was super overwhelming to him. And it was overwhelming for his mom to sit there and support him in that process, although she realized it needed to be done. So therefore, she thought, I'm going to have Lisa come over and sit with him and do it again because he needs maintenance.
Yes. Yeah. No. And in my my Bible study, Get Organized God's Way, I have an acronym called Shalom, which I've done, several of these episodes on. And the last letter in Shalom is M for maintenance. And I always say that if you don't have the M, you only have Shalom. You'll never have the peace, that comes from an organized lifestyle. And maintenance is key. I'm glad you brought that up, because maintenance really is one of the most important aspects. So that what I say, that the wild animals, the wild beasts, as God says, doesn't come in and devour everything that you've accomplished. That's in Joshua, when he tells Joshua, you're going to get the land, but you're only going to get it little by little. Because if you took it all at once, the wild beast would come in and devour everything you've accomplished. In other words, you've got to maintain as you go along. And that's biblical. I mean, who knew that, that maintaining is extremely important, even in the concept of our land, what he's given to us to maintain.
Right.
So, yeah. So maintenance is really high. Good. Yay. Good on the list. Yeah. All right. So let's see if there was other questions. That was a great question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's see. So I have here, see if you want to answer this one, is so you were talking about, when you were working with, the woman originally, and then you went off on your own, right?
Right.
And I'm sure that your business has done a lot of, changes over the years, as mine has, obviously. What would you say is the biggest aha takeaway that changed you from where you were to where you are now?
Well, I think because when I first started working, I was working under someone, and she would have a team that would come in, and well, basically her style was to have the team come in and just bin everything up so that the space looked we'll say organized, clear. And so at one point after a year or so, I realized that her strategy was not my strategy.
Mm.
I
Thank you.
did agree that binning it up did make it look clearer or cleaner, and things could be categorized, and that's an important part. And I do agree with categorizing things and so forth. But what she missed is the personal touch of being beside the clients and helping them make the decisions to decide what to keep or what to let go of. And even at that time when I started my business, I did bring in a team, and it would maybe be just two people, because I realized that a client would not always feel comfortable with having all these other little worker bees buzzing around in the back, whether they were binning things up or sorting or whatever. The client would often be distracted by the fact that there was other people working and they didn't know what exactly they were doing. So they preferred to have less. And they also, whether they, though they didn't like to do it and make decisions on everything in the pile from their closet or their kitchen or whatever area we were working on, I think deep down they realize the importance of making these decisions so that they can transition into whatever season they were going into. And in most cases, it was moving. So I would have a few people there helping with that process of sorting, whether sometimes I did packing, unpacking. I did large jobs where I might even do an estate sale for people or a garage sale. We were really tackling the large quantities of clutter and items. But as I moved through my business, and as with many people, when 2020 hit, we all had to, pivot and do some things different. I found that I needed to change my style, my business model, because my clients were feeling a little uneasy with having people come in. And while they still wanted that assistance, I could only speak for myself as far as where I had been or what I'd been doing. I couldn't, with complete honesty, say my helpers have been following these different protocols that perhaps the client found to be important. So I decided just to work on my own. And since then, so that's been 5 years, I've stayed on my own working. And what that's done is it really has helped me to just invest more time personally with my clients. I get to know them maybe in a more personal way. And my jobs are often smaller because as one person, I can't handle as much at a time in an efficient way as I could when I would have, 3 or 4 of us, out working in a home or so forth. So now my business is more personal in that respect. And, it was a God thing too, because one thing that I struggle with at times, and my kids make fun of me of this, and some of your listeners may be able to relate to this, is when I would have other people working with me, I could get distracted on them as well. Like where I wouldn't be as focused on my task because I was busy and distracted by what they were doing.
Making sure
And
they were
therefore,
doing what they needed to do and all that. Yeah.
right. And therefore, I wasn't as efficient as I could be. So I find that when it's just me, I only have to worry about myself, and encourage the client to stay on task with me rather than being distracted. So it just found that it seems to be a bit easier for my business model, just for it just to be me. Of course, sometimes, I might need to bring in someone who's able to help move things and so
Right. If
forth,
you need to move or something.
coordinate.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But
So maybe I'm more of a project manager with maybe outside vendors rather than having them in as employees or even independent contractors like that.
yeah.
So it's kind of changed. And I think, and God knew how I would function best with that, being less distracted by having others with me. So
That's
yeah, that's where we've kind of landed, more independent.
that's wonderful. So one of the things that I love to delve into with my clients is, you know, especially if I have a Christian client, which is when people call me, they've seen me, on the Messianic Lamb Network. So they know my background. And so they're Christians, or, they're Messianic Jews or something. So we have a shared spiritual, connection there. And so your clientele probably is much different in that respect. However, I know that before I started this with just Christians, um, um, there were times where I was able to. They would say, Eileen, how did you come to do this? Like, what makes you so different? How do you see things so differently? And so it would give me a chance to just be bold and just tell them my relationship with Christ or Yeshua, and they found that really different. Has that ever happened in your experience?
Well, it has. And honestly, that's been something that I've struggled with knowing how to put words to. And how do you share with your clients or people that you don't really know, but you're working for them professionally? And one time I asked another organizer who was a Christian that I knew she was a Christian organizer. And I said, how do you share and be, with your business and your faith? And it was just this thing I was kind of struggling with, like, how do you really do that? And what she said was so simple. She's like, Lisa, you just are a Christian and you show that by your love for these people. And like you just said, they will see that there is something different. And, I will, charge them for X amount of hours or whatever. But I think it's the things that you do that are under that, under that time that they say there's something different about you.
Yes.
And I can just say, it's only, by the grace of God, or, and I don't go too deep unless perhaps, they want to. And even with my Christian clients, I feel like sometimes they almost don't want to bring up God in the mix. Have you ever found that? I think that sometimes there can be a bit of conviction and knowing that I'm a Christian, but that's where I just try to show the grace of God and share that I have my own struggles as well, and there's times where I have to be a little bit more vulnerable with I have my own struggles, and it might not be in the realm of clutter as far as things, but there's often times where my mind is extremely cluttered because I'm chasing after information on something, or I'm busy doing things that might distract me from maybe my time with God or what he might want me to do. And there's other ways that we can be distracted from what God wants us to do. And it goes to the verse, where our hearts are, or where our treasure is there our heart is. And so that's where, I'll share those type of things that will help them understand that their distraction or their clutter is distracting them or separating them from God in a way that maybe they haven't even realized. And it kind of goes, and I find that for myself that I have such less creativity when I'm cluttered in my mind and so forth. And I'm not a highly creative person. I'm an organizer. I'm a little bit more, let's follow steps 1 through 10 kind of person. But there is always that creativity in our life that we do want to draw on in different ways. And that even interacting with my clients, I can be more open and vulnerable with them if I'm not cluttered by other things going on in my life that really are not important. And so those are the type of things that I'll share with them just to help them, actually to show grace for where they're at, but to help them understand it's a process and they need to really just start thinking about letting go.
Right. And sometimes I look at it where that you may be the Jesus that they've never seen.
Yes.
Right.
And that is true.
What is that? And it's just been such I can't find the words for that fourth dimensional, thing when they look at it and they go, how did I not realize this before? How did I not understand this? And so, it's when you know that God's in the middle of the session because it's you, right? When their minds and their spirits become transformed into thinking, why was I hanging on to this for so long? That kind of thing. It's really amazing. So, in your sessions, I know that you have some amazing tips that you
Well,
to share. Would you like to share about some of those?
well, I'll share a few of them, and one of them starts with. Let me just make sure I word this properly. Is that you focus on the bigger picture, and that kind of goes into the fact that what is it that you're trying to complete? What's your big picture for this space? And if they're a Christian, that could be the bigger picture. It could be, I want more time with God. I want less distractions around me. I don't want to be looking at these things I need to do when I'd rather spend time with Him. What is the big picture of why you want to do it? Sometimes, in a more practical sense, it's that I want to bring in a new piece of furniture, or in a practical sense, I need to move in a hospital bed and there's no room. What is your big picture and your motivation for why you want to do this organizing? And I think that's key for any session,
Yes.
big or small, is to find what motivates them. And as a Christian, we like to say, oh, we're motivated to please God. And we are, but sometimes we need to be reminded of, how can we please God? He's not pleased with us just by our works, but He's pleased with us when we spend time with Him. And again, how are we motivated to spend more time with Him? And so that can be a big motivating factor
That's
that I
beautiful.
like to encourage them.
Yeah,
But
that's
then we have to go and focus on a smaller area, because although we'd like to say, I'd like to have an organized home, I'd like to have an organized kitchen, it just doesn't happen like that. You have to fine tune. You have to go a little bit smaller, and we have to find an area where we can start. And so that's where I will help them just discover which smaller area do you want to focus on that will help you in time to find peace in your area and to find joy that you're looking for in whichever area. So we'll focus on a small area. And I usually will leave that to the person I'm helping, but sometimes, honestly, they can't even see a small area in their large project. They need that help. And that's where I'll just help them. Why don't we just start with one drawer? And we
yes,
can break it down into an even smaller project, because
yes.
most everyone has time for one drawer. They really do.
Yeah, and
They
you'd be
they
amazed. I tell them, let's put the timer on for 10 minutes and let's see how long this drawer takes. You know,
Yeah,
and in 10 minutes, it's usually done. And they go, I can't believe I put this off because I thought it was going to take like hours.
exactly. And
The concept of time is just like, it's because they've never done this before. They don't know. So they're scared.
right.
Yeah, and they need the assistance to say, okay, time is a strange animal since we don't know how long this is going to take. So let's
Mhm.
measure it and see how long
Ex-
it takes. Yeah.
and that's a good motivator for them to go to the next drawer when you
Yes.
time them and they see, oh, it only took 10 minutes. And I also encourage them to make it empty. Just like an artist starts with a blank canvas, I'll say you need to start with an empty drawer, because how often, I find myself doing this. Do we want to just kind of move things around and
Hmm.
kind of just put them into maybe a corner of the drawer? But really, if you start and you empty it out and you go to the next step of sorting out your things by what they are into categories, you'll realize that perhaps that pen didn't need to be in the silverware drawer. And you didn't even realize it was there because you just unconsciously used it and you just stuck it into the drawer.
Yeah.
And when you empty things out, it helps you to start with a fresh mind and a fresh look at it. And I think that's where people get stuck, is they don't know how to start. And even when they take it out and it's a fresh look, they sometimes still get stuck. And that's where you can encourage them, break it down to even smaller pieces. Let's figure out, what do you have in this drawer? And then you can decide what needs to be in the drawer. What do I really want to keep? What can I let go? And then they can just kind of make their decisions based on that. And then the next step is to have containers If you're looking at your junk drawer, it makes it a lot easier to maintain, which we had talked about, if you have things in different compartments so that you know where they go, a place for everything and everything in its place. When you have a junk drawer that's just everything is shoved in there, there's no home. I mean, you're calling the drawer the home, but you can't find what you need when you need it quickly, or
Right.
it just becomes the dumping ground. And another tip I do give often is don't buy your containers before you start the
That's
organizing.
right.
Have you ever found that the client has their clutter is their organizing bins and
Yes.
boxes and
Yeah.
baskets and all kinds of beautiful items that are empty
Yeah.
because
And
they
I say, we're not going shopping out. We're shopping inside because I know you probably have it somewhere.
exactly. I say that we're going to shop your stuff.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, and that's a tip we can use, or everyone can use, is to always start with shopping your own stuff, because often you have what you need. You
Yes.
just don't know where it is, and
Yeah.
you just have to take that little extra effort to look around and find it.
Right. So
And
in the final moments that we have here, can you tell us, maybe one more tip, and then how can we get in touch with you and reach out and that kind of stuff?
well, I'm gonna end with kind of how we started. It
Okay.
really does go back to maintenance,
Thank you.
and it's following through on the different steps of having a clear vision, focusing on a smaller area, getting your containers, making your piles, and all this good stuff that goes into tips of organizing. But then you need to maintain it. You've spent all this time getting it to be in an organized state, and that's what you need to do. And that's what I can help people do in person or virtually. I can be contacted by my website, which is www.lrdodson, which is spelled DOD as in dog, SON.com. You could also search for me with New Season Organizing. And I can be reached by email, Lisa at my website, lrdodson.com, or a Google search probably will bring me up since I've been in business for a while. I think I can be found through that method. Or you can
So
always reach out to Eileen. She might be able to connect us as
I
well.
can always get you involved. And so where are you located, Lisa?
I'm located in Fullerton, California. So I'm on the West Coast, and I serve most of that area around me. I'm not too far from Disneyland, to put as a point of reference of where I
Okay. All right.
am.
That's amazing. And so we were going to just touch briefly. We do have about, I don't know, maybe two or three more minutes on something that we were said that we were going to talk about, was the emotional aspect of the organizing things. Am I correct? And
Right.
we were going to do. So do you have just a few things about how our emotions are so tied to the issues?
Well, the main thing, and this is something I personally have been working on, is to really try to identify the emotion that's coming up in you. Sometimes people will be angry. Sometimes they'll be sad. Sometimes they can even be happy. Often there's a lot of fear that comes up
Yes.
when you're dealing with organizing or sentimental objects and someone's encouraging you to let them go. So what I do is I encourage people to try to identify what that emotion is that they're really
That's
dealing
beautiful.
with.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'll just say, oh, I'm afraid, but it's really not, I'm afraid. There's something deeper. And that's where really bringing it to the Lord, praying about why do I have so much fear? Often it could be something that stems way back. And I do even encourage people to seek therapy if they're really finding that they're struggling deeply with some of these emotions that come up. But I often encourage them, don't just dismiss them. Let's just kind of go through them and see how they will shift.
Yeah.
God can give us strength through any of these emotions that we might have. And He made us to be emotional beings,
That's right.
but we don't want to get stuck. And it's
No,
often
and I
as
find
well.
that it's the objects themselves will bring up these emotions that
Yes.
they're dealing with. So that's a fabulous way to end this, because that is so powerful. is for people to recognize, what really is getting in the way of all of the disorganization and clutter. And you're absolutely right. Most of it is the emotional attachments, whether they're good or negative. So thank you, Lisa, so much for being a guest. We may have to do this again. This is so
okay. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it is very fun.
Right. Thank you so much. Well, that was an amazing episode today. I know that she was able to bring things to you that I had not before. So I'm so grateful for God for connecting her with me today. So before we wrap up, I just want to take a moment and thank you for coming today. And if this message has been a source of encouragement, and you want to reach out to Lisa and go back and replay it and get her information again, or you can email me at eileenkoff@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to send her information on to you. But if you are interested in more of these episodes, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, Eileen Koff YouTube, and you'll get all of the new things as they come along. And so remember that organizing, it's not solely about about getting things in order. It's about making space for what matters. And what matters is bringing God's shalom, bringing his peace into your life. So may you continue to bring God's order into every aspect of your life. Shalom, mishpacha. If you missed today's show or want to watch it again, or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Eileen Koff, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.